I am not selling any crypto because I believe we are about to witness the craziest of crypto super cycles. But there are some people out there who are trying to make us fear our investments because of things like Michael Saylor buying tons of Bitcoin. It's kind of ironical, right? That right now, one of the biggest fear pieces going around the crypto market is the fact that one company is buying so much Bitcoin that they're afraid. And not because the company holds too much, but because these guys are buying it with debt. But let me quickly in the middle here say, the reason I am so extremely bullish is mostly because I believe we're only getting started and things are really about to pop off. I'll talk about the FUD in just a second, but first, make sure you press that like button. Second of all, if you're watching this video thinking, no, Dusty, we're going down, all right, send me a screenshot of you shorting it with every single dollar you've got, because if you're right, if we actually start going to zero here, you'll be a multi-billionaire. You probably will be one of the richest people on earth. If you actually believe we'll not go a single cent higher, we'll really go to zero from here. A lot of people say it, but not that many people like to put their money where their mouth is. Or they say this, it'll probably go to zero, but the bubble could last for a little while. But that again basically means you still think we're going to go up quite a ton. Anyway, if you don't have a short open of at least maybe $20 million or so, please stop talking to me. But anyway, if you want to know the fear mongering that's going around, I'll show you anyway. But just know, don't get distracted by all these itty bitty bits left and right, because there will always be fear. But at the end of the day, we are up above $100,000 per Bitcoin, and they said it was going to zero from day one. Some people said it was going to zero in 2018. Look at where they are today, still broke, wishing they bought. But here you go regardless. So one of the fear pieces going around right now is, look at this. I respect Saylor's conviction, but he is no different than me or any margin trader out there. Don't forget that. His upwards DCA is increasing the risk of his debt to goodwill ratio with lenders. He's probably the next Luna, FTX, etc. because the market always catches you over-leveraged players. And he shows that Michael Saylor basically bought Bitcoin really quite low and just keeps buying whenever they get more money. Not necessarily at the lowest spots, just keeps buying their way out, which is essentially also what I keep showing you on the channel here. I just buy more XRP, for example, whenever I get the chance to, whenever I think it's a good little point, but often it's been at high points, often it's been at low points. Sometimes we sell the top, most of the time we don't. But for the most part, we just buy because we believe this crypto cycle is going to still last us a little while. And so the best thing we can do is just load up, load up, load up. But some people disagree. And here's, for example, a person that says, well, you know what? He's basically warning us saying, you know what, if Bitcoin peaks and starts dropping, master stock will also drop. If it drops enough, lenders, because they're buying Bitcoin on borrowed money, will also demand a settlement, their money back, which forces him to borrow from a weaker collateral position or maybe even sell his Bitcoin treasury, which creates a downwards cascade, right? Not really, because they promised to not sell Bitcoin for a long while. And I just don't think that this is like what he's saying, by the way. It does make sense, but only when things get so bad that he cannot get more money to buy the dip, that he cannot get more money to pay back investors if they demand the money back. But two things. One is this is actually talking about a scenario where the Bitcoin price goes down a lot. It is talking about a scenario where the investors lose confidence. It is talking about a scenario where he cannot convince others that buying the dip is smart. But again, that goes back to the idea that people buy in partially because they kind of believe in the whole idea and they want to get some exposure to crypto probably. But now to clear the air a little bit, the MicroStrategy average price per Bitcoin is really quite significantly low. MicroStrategy faces bankruptcy only if Bitcoin goes back to like $15,000 per coin. And that is, again, in a scenario where he doesn't have another backup plan in place, which I do believe he probably has. MicroStrategy, or I should say 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏 CEO, came in to say MicroStrategy realistically only goes bankrupt if like an asteroid hits Earth. For 15 years, Bitcoin has never dropped below the cost basis of long-term whales, which currently stands at $30,000. So the idea is that Bitcoin will probably from here on forward never go below $30,000. But okay, let's just say it goes all the way back there. MicroStrategy's debt right now is $7 billion, and its Bitcoin holdings are worth $46 billion. Based on Bitcoin alone, the liquidation price is $16,500 with a live chart. I know calculating liquidation price seems pointless at this point, but man, just try to keep it simple. In prehistoric times, when primitive people first came across gold, their reactions likely fell into two categories. Some saw it as just another yellow rock, while others recognized its rarity and value. Thousands of years later, gold evolved into a strategic asset for nations. Today, we face a similar moment probably with Bitcoin or with the crypto space. In the borderless realm of the internet, we've discovered a new kind of gold. Some grasp its rarity and value, seize the opportunity, and treat it as a strategic asset. Others dismiss it as worthless, just another digital rock. Those who fail to understand that Bitcoin represents global financial leadership in an internet-driven economy will soon be left behind, much like the countless nations in history that disappeared for failing to grasp the value of gold. And really, all I'm thinking about is all these different countries right now. Here, for example, there's a rumor going around, right, on Forbes. A leak reveals that Russia's bid for Bitcoin reserve is going on amid huge 2025 price predictions. Right now, it's mostly, in my opinion, a talk of which country is going to be first to adopt it as a reserve, not a talk of how low can it fall and will a company fall because of it. If he would get wrecked the moment that Bitcoin would go to like 65,000, I'd be with you guys thinking, ooh, he's taking up way too much risk. But again, we don't know all the underlying parts. You cannot know how much they'd be able to buy, how much they'd be able to go for. As of this point, their average price is $60,000 per Bitcoin, so it can basically half and they'd still be at break even. And then from there, it has to go so low where all the investors now all of a sudden lose confidence, etc., etc. I just brush it off as another fear-mongering piece. Anyway, there will always be bears. There will always be people who say, here's why it will fail. Here's why we're going to zero. And trust me right now when I say that you can get distracted by those thoughts, get your mind influenced, and all of a sudden, you don't believe in nothing no more. So watch out. I always call to people to be realistic and analytical, critical perhaps even, but not overly critical, because if you are, nothing is good anymore. Seriously, start thinking about it. Name one good investment option that does not have downsides. It doesn't exist. So the more you start looking at all the bad sides rather than the good sides, being overly critical, I should say, the more you're holding yourself back from trying something and actually believing more than just fully calculating it. Meaning, well, a sort of crypto revolution, the way we're seeing it, of sorts. Especially for the early adopters, it was mostly just this probably won't work, but it might. If you really start calculating the odds of what some people, maybe in a basement, maybe at the CIA, who knows, right? But what some people just bought up out of nothing. This Bitcoin thing, at the start, there was nobody using it. Now it's everybody. But at the start, you probably couldn't have fathomed that it would actually get this far, depending on obviously who made it. Point being here, yep, I think you can always start talking about the downside possibilities of, hey, you know what? If Bitcoin goes back down to $10,000, we might be screwed. And to that, I'll say, let's see. It's just like saying, if stablecoins now go bust, we're all screwed. I mean, yeah, probably true, but who cares? It's probably not going to happen. And if it does, we'll find a way to make all right again. There have been crashes. I mean, the biggest crypto exchange ever at that point, Mt. Gox, was hacked, right? There were a lot of crashes. Bitcoin crashed to like 1 cent from, I think, like $30 or something. I don't remember the exact price. Maybe even $100 or so. It recovered. I mean, it went to 1 cent from whatever it was then, and now it's back to 107,000. I shouldn't say back, but you get my idea. Anyway, so the plan is just buy altcoins, just buy Bitcoin. And I personally believe if you just keep buying, you will also be fine. You got to obviously have a little bit of leeway if you're doing it with borrowed money, where they might ask for the money back at some point. And that's also why in the stock world, they have themselves a ratio. Usually it's about the age you are is the percentage that you should have in bonds over stocks. And the idea there being that the older you become, the more stable an investment you should be looking for, because some point your stocks could be up, some point they could be down. And similarly with crypto, I kind of believe that, yes, things might get bad. Yes, they might get volatile, but ultimately they will go up, just perhaps not the moment you're looking for them to go up. So with Michael Saylor as well, if they're asking for their money back at the wrong time because everything went bad, most likely he's still fine, even if they all ask for their money back. It's only if, yes, we see a 98%, like a 95% crash, which I don't think is going to happen. And on top of that, something else is to go wrong. On top of that, something else is to go wrong. But you want to know a fun fact? There's another very funny line that many people do not know. And you know what that is? And this is a really funny one that many people do not realize. I don't want to bring up the FUD, but I have to. We don't know what we don't know about staking. Do you know that the co-founder of Ethereum, Vitalik, doesn't really even stake his Ethereum, and there's billions of dollars worth of Ethereum staked? Why don't people do it? Because you do not know what could still go wrong. And the same you can say about a lot of these coins. You really don't know what hackers can do until they show you kind of what they could do. You don't know there's a vulnerability, otherwise you try to patch it. But there's probably also some vulnerabilities right now as we speak that they've never announced to the world that are vulnerabilities, because they do not want anybody to try it. And there's always, at every single point, at every single day, gonna be at least a couple tens of people who are trying right now to crack Bitcoin, to crack Ethereum, to crack Solana. I don't think they're gonna be able to do it, but just know they're trying, and they're always trying to hack people. They're always trying to take some money somewhere from wherever. And it could also be that even though they're multi-sig nowadays, they use proper custody providers, it could be that at some point some key management people, they mess up somewhere. Just like how banks sometimes get defrauded and they sent the wrong transaction. It can happen. And it can crash a crypto, sure. Again, to conclude everything, because you might be asking where's the video going to, it's just a matter of, like I said earlier, if you really start only focusing on the bad parts, nothing is enjoyable no more. Nothing really makes sense. You can't invest into anything because all has bad sides. Just keep thinking about how the crypto space is going to grow, and obviously be realistic in the sense that it could go down a bit. You could have but over time, it usually falls about 80% or so per Bitcoin from the absolute peak. And if we take a look, the peak from 2015 all the way towards 2018 was roughly 20x of the previous one. Then from 2018 to the 2022 one, it was roughly 410%. If we, in this case here, to go to 16 or whatever, 19,000, I don't remember what it was. Let's just say 18,000. It's about a 20% increase from the previous bottom. But I personally do not think we'll ever go below, I'm going to say $50,000 again. But let's be really realistic. Even if we take this dip right here that we saw the last season, which is roughly 80% down. Even from that, from right now, current prices, right, at about $107,000, 80% down would also still bring us to levels above where anybody could get in trouble. But I personally believe we're going to first go to maybe, let's say 300,000, something like that, and then going down 80%, maybe, because I think this time we're going to go down less, would it probably bring us to like 60,000, maybe even higher. Yeah, those are my thoughts. Long story short, nobody's going to make me sell. I'm holding to the very freaking end. And if you are too, make sure you press that like button. And let's endeavor on this journey together, I guess.